All right, today we are cracking open the code of the human mind. We're going to explore these hidden psychological and biological programs that are constantly running in the background, influencing pretty much everything we do, say, and feel.
So let me just start by asking you a question. What if your brain is operating on scripts you've never even read? What if your biggest decisions are being guided by a code you can't even see? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into.
And we're talking about really powerful, often subconscious programs. The ones that dictate how we persuade other people, who we find ourselves attracted to, and even how we lock in and focus on a task. And look, these aren't just theories. They're observable, you can harness them, they're part of our mental hardware.
And that is our promise for the next few minutes. We're not just going to talk about these programs, we're going to give you the source code. So let's dive in.
We're going to begin at the surface level with some incredibly simple psychological tricks that honestly have surprisingly powerful results. Think of these as the user-level commands you can start using immediately. So a tiny change in language can literally flip a switch in someone's brain. See, if you ask, "Could you call the neighbors?" it allows their brain to subconsciously answer, "Well, yes, I could," without actually agreeing to do it. But when you phrase it as, "Please call the neighbors," that's a direct command. It just bypasses the whole theoretical question and goes straight to the action. This same idea applies to motivation. Let's say someone on your team is just dragging their feet, they can't get started. Don't overwhelm them with the whole project. Instead, you just give them a tiny entry point. Hey, just start with this. Psychologically, that feels totally manageable. And once they've done it, you offer that positive reinforcement. Very good. And then you just guide them to the next tiny step. Now continue with this. It is such an effective psychological workaround for resistance. Do you ever get that nagging feeling? That worry that you forgot to turn off the iron? Okay, here's a bizarre but super effective memory hack. When you do the action, say a completely absurd phrase out loud, something like "green rabbit." The next time you feel that anxiety pop up, your brain won't search for the boring memory of turning off an iron. It'll search for the memory of you shouting "green rabbit." And because it's so strange, you remember it instantly. This points to a really fundamental bias in our memory. See, our brains are wired to better remember the very first thing we hear, that's the primacy effect, and the very last thing we hear, that's the recency effect. Everything in the middle just tends to get kind of blurry. This is exactly why when you're scheduling a job interview, you should always try to be the first or the last candidate of the day. You'll make the strongest impression.
Okay, now that we've seen some tricks you can consciously use, let's go a level deeper. We're moving into the secret, subconscious language our bodies use to signal attraction. This is where biology really takes the driver's seat.
The key to this secret language is something called microexpressions. These are these lightning-fast, totally uncontrollable flashes of emotion across your face. You can't fake them, you can't stop them. You can think of them as your soul's pop-up notifications. And people, whether they realize it or not, are often wired to notice them.
So what do these actually look like? Well, the eye spark is when your pupils dilate just slightly. It's a sign of real intrigue. The half smile. This isn't a big grin. It's a tiny, uncontrolled upward flick of the lips that basically says, "You've got my attention." And the brow lift. Even just a millimeter, it signals acknowledgement. It tells someone, "I see you. You exist."
Now, the crucial point here is that these signals are either open or closed. Open expressions signal safety and they invite someone to approach. Closed expressions, like a micro frown or a subtle eye roll, they signal rejection. In that half second of eye contact across a room, a person's brain can make the entire decision to approach or retreat based on these powerful fleeting signals alone. Is that fast?
And it is not just facial expressions. Another powerful biological signal is vocal pitch. When a man is speaking to someone he finds attractive, his voice will often subconsciously deepen. Biologically, a deeper voice is a sign of higher testosterone, and this vocal shift is an ancient, hardwired signal of genetic quality.
So these subconscious signals, they're not just random tics. They are rooted in the fundamental blueprint of the brain itself. To really understand why we behave this way, we have to look at our core biological and psychological wiring.
First, here's a surprising fact for you. Your brain is about 60% fat. We're so often taught to think of fat as an enemy, right? But for your cognitive health, it's absolutely vital. It's the core building block of your most important organ.
Now here's an experience I'm sure most of us can relate to. Have you ever tried to talk to someone who's just deeply focused on a task and they don't hear you? It's not that they're ignoring you. In that state of deep focus, their brain is physiologically filtering out external stimuli. It's like it's wearing noise-canceling headphones.
The words you're saying may literally not even register.
This leads us to a fascinating modern personality type that I call the offline mute. This person really has two sides. The first side is the digital lion. In texts and group chats, they are witty, confident, charismatic, just sparkling with personality.
But then, you meet them in person, and they become the real-life whisperer. Quiet, reserved, maybe even a little shy. So why the split? It's because digital communication provides a buffer. It gives the brain time to process, to edit, and to delete. The high-pressure, high-resolution environment of a face-to-face conversation, it completely removes that safety net, making it so much harder for them to perform.
So we've looked at conscious tricks, subconscious signals, and our deep biological blueprints. All of these elements, the commands we give, the signals we send, the very way our brains are wired, they are the building blocks of our own personal script. So the real question is, how do we make sense of it all?
And this brings us to this core, powerful idea. You can't always see the logic in your path while you're on it. This quote encourages us to trust our curiosity, to trust our intuition, even when a path seems unconventional. It's really a call to just collect experiences, to collect dots, with the faith that one day when you look back, you'll see how they all formed a masterpiece.
Which leaves us with one final and I think crucial question for you. Knowing that every experience, every skill is a dot that will one day connect to form the masterpiece of your life script, what dots will you start collecting today? Thanks for joining me.